All right, let's begin here. It's no surprise that the issues around the war in Ukraine were laid bare in the foreign ministers' meeting ahead of the G20 summit. Brazil is set to host this year's summit, and opinions continue to be divided on what is currently taking place in the Ukraine as well as the Middle East. Our correspondent Ira Spitzer joins us live now. Thank you so much for your time. Ira, reports are suggesting that Western foreign ministers from the G20 group came down on Russia quite heavily on the war in Ukraine. Give us a sense of what came out then.
So we're just about to hear the closing statement of this two-day meeting, which will be delivered by Brazil's Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira. That is set to start shortly. But what we know so far from this meeting and these 2 days of meetings was that the issues of Ukraine as well as Gaza were discussed at length. And specifically on the issue of Ukraine, there were reports that Western countries were highly critical of Russia's aggression towards Ukraine during some closed-door sessions that included Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Sergei Lavrov himself has responded to some of that criticism, as well as the criticism from Western countries like the United States over the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny in a Russian penal colony last week, with Lavrov calling that hysteria and also saying that Western countries had no right to meddle in Russia's affairs. So that certainly was one of the major headlines of this event, which of course brings together not only countries like Russia and the United States, but other members of the G20, including of course South Africa, which was represented here by the foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, and she met here with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, as well as ministers from the European Union, Germany, and Canada. So certainly a chance for bilateral meetings to take place in addition to the top-line events of this two-day meeting.
And looking ahead, of course, one is looking at the impact economically as well as politically that continues to be felt when it comes to the war in Ukraine. Are we likely to see an agreement in relation to global political issues as well once the summit kicks off?
Well, I don't think there is going to be much progress at coming out of the G20 meetings of foreign ministers, given the acrimonious tone that we've certainly heard from Russia's side, as well as from the United States heading into this meeting. American Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Brazil's President Lula da Silva ahead of the G20, and then now Sergei Lavrov is planning to travel to the capital, Brasilia, after the end of these meetings and meet with President Lula as well. So there does seem to be an effort by the Brazilian host to stay in the middle and not choose sides in this conflict in any way by meeting with both of these foreign ministers. We've, of course, seen a stated neutrality from BRICS countries like Brazil, like South Africa and India, as far as that conflict in Ukraine, given the strong ties to Russia, the strong economic ties that those countries have, as well as the strong relationships with the United States. So that's, of course, a big issue at an event like the G20.
And as you mentioned there, earlier on, that conflict in the Middle East as well, and some of the acrimonious relationships that you've just touched on as well this evening. So are we likely to see possibly a derailment of the negotiations, given some of these strong and divided opinions in what's happening in geopolitics at the moment? All right, it does look like we've lost our correspondent there, Ira Spitzer, but we will continue to monitor the updates on this one. The acrimonious relationships, according to some, may make things a little bit difficult here, as much as this is all about, economic negotiations, but you also look at what is happening geopolitically as well, and that's possibly, maybe likely to, play a role here as well. So we'll continue to bring you updates on this particular story. My colleague there, our correspondent, Ira Spitzer, SABC News correspondent.